Despite all the changes that we've seen to the Capital One venturex credit card, I still believe that it is good for the right person. And yes, we've lost PriorityPass Restaurant perks, we've lost a true travel credit. It's still very much there, but it is a discount now. And now we have the possibility to lose Hertz Presidential Circle status, although that remains to be seen, but more on that in a minute. I did say that I still think this is a really great card for the right person, but obviously those changes are a lot to overlook. So I do think that anybody who's interested in the venturex needs to take a long and hard look at these changes, as well as anybody who's on the fence about renewing their card for another year. But let's talk about those changes. So news broke recently that Capital One's partnership with Hertz is set to expire at the end of this year. At first, it seemed set in stone that we were going to be losing this status on December 31st of this year. Capital One has since clarified that as of now, the contract is set to expire then, but they also didn't rule out the possibility that they'd be extending the contract beyond this year. So it's definitely something we're going to have to wait and see, but it still doesn't bode well for venturex credit card holders. And why do I say that? Well, based on Capital One's recent history with the venturex, it's clear that they would prefer to just cut down on the card's benefits rather than raise the annual fee. And while I appreciate that they will not be raising my $395 annual fee or charging me to be an authorized user, I'm a little bit concerned about this trend that we've seen. But I will explain why I personally am not worried in just a minute. And for those of you that might be unaware, Hertz Presidential Circle gives you access to perks like guaranteed upgrades. You also get 1.5 Hertz points per dollar spent on Hertz rental cars. Get, quote, the widest selection of ultimate choice vehicles. And then you also do get to add a second driver for free, guys. That, I think, is the biggest perk, because when you rent a car, typically you're going to have to pay extra if you want to add a second driver, assuming you don't have any status with any rental car company. And that can be pretty annoying. On the other hand, you might just choose to have one driver, but then if you're traveling a long ways with multiple people, then obviously that creates its own set of problems. You could have somebody else drive, but say if you were getting into an accident, things would get messy very, very quickly. I'm not an insurance expert, but I do know that the person who rents the car needs to be the one driving in case of an accident. And by having the ability to add a second driver for free, the present circle status really negates any of those risks. But if Capital One moves on, that does leave us with very few core benefits to this card. And that's definitely not a good sign. It is annoying, at least right now, and down the line, I could see how it could be an actual problem. Now let's retrace our steps to about 2 years ago. Capital One decided to remove PriorityPass Restaurant benefits from its card. Previously, as a part of your PriorityPass membership by holding the venturex, you would get access to not only lounges, but also the other PriorityPass options. The biggest one would be restaurants. At participating locations and airports, you would be given a $28 credit plus $28 for a guest. And this would be a really nice way to still use your PriorityPass membership, save a little bit of money at the airport with food and everything, especially if you don't have good PriorityPass lounges at your home airport. And some don't even have any at all. So it was sort of a saving grace for some people. Personally, for me, I'm very, very lucky to have an airport with a ton of lounges and then 2 other secondary airports to choose from that have some other options as well. But now that that benefit is gone, I actually would not recommend the venturex to somebody in this situation. If you don't have a PriorityPass lounge at your home airport, then it's just not worth it. Even if you did use the $300 travel credit and you get your 10,000 anniversary miles, it's a good tool for basically prepaying some of your travel, but that's where your benefits pretty much end. And you might be better off going with a different credit card that either gets you into a different type of lounge or that has other benefits that would meet your lifestyle. Personally, what makes the venturex work so well for me is I have a Capital One lounge location at my home airport, Washington Dulles. That's really the main reason why I got the card. I did want the $300 travel credit and everything, but what really makes it great is that lounge access, and Dulles also has a good amount of PriorityPass locations as well. So I think it's pretty clear that These changes have negatively affected quite a few cardholders, and those that remain mostly unaffected, relatively, are people who live near Capital One lounges, those being in Denver, Dallas, and Washington Dulles IAD, with another location in Las Vegas currently under construction. But I'm actually really excited to see where Capital One goes with the venturex this year. And yeah, I'm a little bit biased. I do have a Capital One lounge at my home airport, so please take what I say with a grain of salt. However, I am still worried about the annual fee increasing or, charging authorized users like me. But what do I think will happen this year? Well, first things first, I think Capital One is going to make a really big push with their lounges. I think they are side-eyeing Chase and Amex to a degree with their respective lounges, Centurion for Amex, Sapphire for Chase, and I think that they're going to be more competitive with their bids for lounge spaces at popular airports in the US. And although it's extremely unlikely that any Capital One lounge bids will be even under construction sometime this year, it would give people something to look forward to and therefore be more willing to hold on to the card, in my opinion. This might also appease people if the $395 annual fee is increased. To do that, I think they would have to have the Las Vegas location open well before the end of the year. And maybe if they win a few more bids, then just announcing those might be enough. I'm also optimistic that Capital One will finally open their Capital One landings. And this is really more of like a hybrid take on like a really small lounge and like a PriorityPass affiliated restaurant, in my view at least. There are two of them currently under construction, one at LaGuardia Airport in New York City, and the other one at my secondary airport, National Airport, DCA. If you couldn't tell, I'm very, very excited for this because it would mean I have a Capital One option at my primary and secondary airports. And as of now, venturex credit card holders will receive complimentary unlimited access to these landings, just like the Capital One lounges. I think it's fair to wonder if this is Capital One's attempt to take on a in-house version of those PriorityPass restaurants. Although it was a little bit odd of them to gut the PriorityPass restaurant perk without having any timeline set up for those Capital One landings. But whenever those do open, it's a fantastic option for DCA in particular because there are no PriorityPass lounges. I believe they do have a PriorityPass restaurant, and they do have a Centurion lounge under construction as well. This would give another option to people sort of in the middle of that, aka venturex credit card holders. And apparently the food menu is supposed to be curated by Chef Jose Andres. He's a very legendary DC chef and does a lot of really great things for the community and happens to have some really great food. So I'm excited to see how that turns out, and I hope that it'll be ready sometime this year. And now for two final negative changes that I think could happen in 2024. First, I do think that there are authorized user fees coming, and it pains me to say, as somebody who was just added as an authorized user to the venturex, but of course, this is a loss leader card for Capital One. There's no way that this card is profitable in the long run. And maybe to compensate for this, I could see Capital One throwing in a temporary, low-cost type of benefit, maybe a Uber One membership for a few months. Maybe that would apply for the primary cardholder and the authorized user. Again, this is purely speculation. It wouldn't be too far out of the realm of possibility, given that the Capital One Saver and Quicksilver card lineups feature this benefit. And they might just extend that Hertz partnership to appease people, but it could come at the cost of adding authorized user fees or hiking up the annual fee. And finally, I don't think it's completely impossible that Capital One says that they are going to get rid of the 10,000 mile anniversary bonus worth $100. Personally, I'd be fine with trading in my $100 worth of miles in exchange for not raising the annual fee, which would basically make the venturex a $95 card. And that seems to be a magic number for a lot of people. Lots of folks are perfectly fine to pay $95 for the Sapphire Preferred or any number of mid-tier airline and hotel credit cards. And so with these changes, I don't think that the Capital One venturex should be in everybody's wallets. If we're operating under the assumption that people who are looking at this card are people that travel a lot, then I think there are three different ways that people could go about this card. If your home airport has a Capital One lounge in it like mine does, then this card is for you. You have access to some pretty high quality lounges, and of course, other Priority Pass options as well. The second path here is if your home airport has even a few Priority Pass lounges and you are not particularly excited about paying for the $550 Sapphire Reserve or $695 Amex Platinum, then this might be a nice middle of the road compromise. You're going to have to account for current and future Centurion Lounge locations, and you'll also need to account for the Sapphire Lounge in Boston, as well as the other planned locations. And then lastly, if you don't have good Priority Pass options at your airport, then I can safely say that the venturex is not a good fit for you. And I think I'll leave all of my speculation and analysis with this. I think that the Capital One venturex will survive as long as that $300 credit and the good lounge access exists. Personally, I'm still 100% on board. I mean, come on now. With a potential second Capital One style option showing up at DCA, I have an option at my primary and secondary airports, and I travel more than enough to use that travel credit. Thanks so much for watching, everyone. I know I'm a little more optimistic than most, and frankly, part of that is biased due to being a new card holder, but I'd love to know what your thoughts are, so please leave a comment below. I appreciate each and every single one of you as we continue to build out a community together on this channel. I've been Josh. Take care, and I'll see you next time.